Hey, I'm back. 2002 Suzuki XL-7. We're coming close to the end, so to speak. Last time I left you, I created a problem for myself by pinching an O-ring back on the, see that red down there? That's my outlet pipe. Had a warm time trying to find the right O-ring just to make a mistake and have it be split on me, because I think my mistake was not lubing it enough. And that's another little tidbit for you. If you're going to use silicone spray as your lubricant, then you pretty much need to spray and install immediately. So I think what my mistake was, sprayed it, called it good, and just the time it took between the time I sprayed it and the time I installed it was enough time for the lubrication properties of the silicone to dissipate. It doesn't really stay long. It'll stay longer if you install immediately, and then it's in a sealed environment, and that lubrication should last for some time. In my experience, the longer it's installed on something between the metal and rubber surface or metal and plastic surface, you're still probably going to have a bit of a struggle anyway, because time is going to win. So what I did this time was use a lubrication that I like for the same purpose, but it's definitely thicker. It's grease, SYL-GLIDE. You put that on there, it's not going to dissipate, but it's not as slippery as silicone spray. So I put that on there to get it in place, which is a headache, so don't make this mistake, because I did it while it was still in place instead of removing everything to get to it. I was able to work blind some of the time, get some scratches on my hands and fingers just to get access back here. There's not that much space back here to work. Find those nuts and bolts, which are not very heavily torqued, so that's a good thing in this case. It's about, I used 12 pounds on everything that was coolant related, because I didn't see any torque specs for anything other than the thermostat housing itself, and the thermostat housing was 12 pounds. So everything related to the thermostat, which the outlet pipe is connected to the thermostat housing, and of course the bypass pipe or crossover pipe is connected to that same system. So I just used 12 pounds for everything. On the passenger side or right side, you're gonna have a tough time unless you have the right tools, but I'm not sure what exists out there that you could use to get a torque wrench on that other side. You can hardly use a normal socket to get the right side on. Access is a lot worse. Even when I had it apart, access was worse on this side. So if you do run into this issue and you don't want to take everything apart to get to it, you're gonna have to undo your heater hose, both of them, to get access to the nuts and bolts back here. There's stuff in the way that's attached to the outlet pipe itself, so you're probably not going to be able to get a socket on there. So it looks like it's doable, but it really isn't, unless you have a really thin wall socket and maybe some what do you call it, because ratcheting wrenches, like the box wrenches that have one end that's open wrench and one end is ratcheting, the one I have is too thick. Maybe you have a different tool. but I ended up having to use a box wrench for most of this on the right side, passenger side, and I was able to get it done, but there's no way to really get the torque spec 100%, so you just get it on, know that it's tight, and there's not that much pressure here. I mean, of course, when I started, I'm gonna know if I have any leaks, but I had a leak just pouring in the first gallon, and that's how I knew oh, you know, you done messed up. But yeah, that outlet pipe O-ring was corrected while everything was in place. Like I said, you have to disconnect the heater hoses. Mine is a different setup than maybe you have, because I ended up having to use some fittings to make the silicone hose work, because silicone hose doesn't want to make that bend. Your heater hoses are pre-molded if they're from the factory, or if they're, you know, stock style. I mean, they might be aftermarket, but they're still going to be pre-molded if you buy something meant for this car. If you get regular hose, it's going to kink, and you might be able to run okay like that, but I don't buy that. You got a kink in any of your lines for any delivery system. Coolant, fuel, vacuum, you're going to create problems for yourself. So disconnect those, and on the other side, you have your temperature sensor. That has to come out for you to gain access, but everything on this side, I believe you can get with a socket. And you can use a torque wrench on most of the screws, bolts and nuts. Well, it's one bolt and two nuts. One of them is a little difficult to get to, but if you have the right extensions, you might be able to get it. And if you have the right torque wrench. Again, I use 12 pounds. On this side, I kind of removed all these electrical connectors just so I could have access from the top, which if your hands are small enough, maybe they can fit through there. Mine couldn't. You can reach in from the bottom. You need to get in here just to make sure that your O-ring is in place properly. And then use a 22mm socket to get your temperature sensor out so you can reach the bottom bolt to torque it. So that's about it. The electrical connector, you need to make sure you remember to put it back on. You disconnect that when you take off the water temperature sensor. And yeah, it can be done while everything is together. So if you end up getting that leak just from the back, you can do it while everything is together. Ideally, it should all be done when it's apart. Makes it much easier, because pretty much everything is annoying to do on this. Clearance issues, but it can be done. Another point to make, these ignition coil, so coil packs, the wires have a locator on it so that you can attach that to these little nubs. Basically just keeps the I'm calling it a locator, because once you have it on there, it will help you to line up and make sure that your coils are in the right place. Secure the wire down so that you can get the cover on. I'm not going to put the cover back on because I like this cute little yellow thing going on here. And also my new coils have its own locator and integral with the part itself, so these are no longer necessary. I'm probably going to leave them there unless they make noise and rattle or something like that, but right now I think I'm ready for the initial startup. I still don't have my electric fan in. That should be pretty easy. I also want to do my idler pulley. I'm not sure if this is it an idler pulley or call it a drive line pulley, but It is a tensioner, but it's not spring loaded. You're gonna have to create your own tension by holding it to the tension that you want and tightening it down. But when I was doing some other checks for noise and stuff like that, I was getting a squeal from my belt, and my belt is new. Both my belts are new, so when I took everything off and spun that pulley, it was making noise like bad bearings. That pulley is fairly new too, so I don't know why. Well, I kind of know why it failed. It's not a high-end part. It's aftermarket and probably a no-name part that I used just to get by. It got me by for maybe a year. So the new part I'm going to use is a Gates. That's the part number 36280. That's your tensioner pulley on the left side. And that's it. You're basically just making sure all your connectors are connected, making sure all the electrical connections are done properly, they're back on there, secure, make sure all your hoses are tight. One of my other leaks that I found pouring in the first gallon was a brand new petcock for my radiator, brand new, and the O-ring wasn't right. So I ended up having some O-rings in the garage. Just ended up using that, and it worked. I have no wetness, no drip, so I got about a little over a gallon in here right now, and the radiator is full. So I'm going to try and run this and see how we do. Later.